following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. This is Comfortably Zoned Radio, and it's time for Dodgers baseball, a tale of two cities, from Brooklyn to Los Angeles. My name is Peter Trunk, and my two hosts are Ron Rabinovitz and Robert Cole. Ronnie, how are you?
Good, I'm fine, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And Robert Cole, how are you?
Doing good, Peter, doing good.
All right, there you go. We have a couple of guests tonight. One of them has not shown up so far. Off air, he may join in the middle of the conversation. But we're excited to have Linda Wilson from live from San Diego, California, sunny San Diego. Linda, how you doing?
Good. Really good. Nice to be back. It's been a while.
Yes, it's been a while, and through not 100% my fault, by the way, because I have invited you on and you couldn't do it, and I realize why you couldn't do it a couple of times because of the time difference, and you know, I think it's 8:12 everywhere. It's not 8:12 right now as I speak. It's 5:12 where you are, so I apologize for that, but. Anyway, it's great to have you. It's really, really great to have you, and we have a lot to talk about tonight. We have a lot of Los Angeles stuff to talk about. We're going to leave that for a little bit. We're just going to do a little tiny bit of Brooklyn before we get out to Los Angeles, and I'm going to ask my partner, Robert Cole, if you want to say anything about the Brooklyn segment of the show, the Brooklyn Dodgers. Robert?
Absolutely. We need to get a little Brooklyn in here.
There you go.
Last week, we were talking a little bit about a couple of catches that were made in the 1952 World Series, and how people, mistakenly thought that because it was made in right field that Carl Frillo made both catches. And we pointed out that Andy Pasco, in fact, made the first catch, and Carl Frillo made the second catch. You had mentioned that you thought it was Johnny Mize who hit the ball that Frillo caught. I mentioned that I thought it was Yogi Berra, when in fact it was Johnny Mize. And it happened in the fourth inning when Carl Frillo came into the game and took over for George Shuba in left field. Andy Pasco went to left field, Carl Frillo went to right. But let's talk a little bit about Andy Pasco real quick. Andy Pasco got traded in the middle of 1951 at the trading deadline. It was a big, big trade. Everybody conceded the pennant to the Dodgers at that point. Pasco, along with Johnny Schmitz, Wayne Terwilliger, and Rube Walker, got traded from the Cubs, and the Dodgers sent to Chicago Bruce Edwards, Joe Hatton, Gene Hermansky, and Eddie Mixis. The following year, 1953, Pasco played the entire year, played 150 games, had a decent but not spectacular year, and to the dismay of everyone, the following year he was traded. In January of 1953, he was traded by the Dodgers to the Braves for Roy Hartsfield at $50,000. And that seemed to be an earmark of the O'Malley years and Bavasi, as almost every trade, the player coming back to Brooklyn in most cases was inconsequential, but it was the amount of money, $25,000, $35,000, $50,000, and people wonder why that was. And that actually is a throwback to when O'Malley bought out Branch Rickey. He owed Branch Rickey over $1 million. Branch Rickey agreed to take it over time, and O'Malley, $1 million in those years was a lot of money, and O'Malley was scrambling, and almost every time a trade was made, money had to come back to the Dodgers. And then also, as far as Pasco goes, Pasco was a decent ball player, a good ball player. In 1952, the Dodgers probably had one of the greatest, if not the greatest, 8-man everyday lineups in all of baseball of all time. If you go back, you look at that. Hodges at first, Robinson at second, Reese at short, Cox at third, Pafko in left, Schneider in center, Ferrillo in right, Campanella catching. And the only thing that weakened that team at all was Don Newcomb was in the Army that year, and the pitching was not at the very best. But other than that, that probably was one of the best, like I said, all-time 8-man everyday lineups of all time.
Agreed.
Very good.
Agreed. That was a good job. Andy Pafko's trade for Roy Hartsfield and $50,000 always smelled a little fishy to me when I read about it in later years as a full-grown adult, looking back on Dodger history. And you explained it very well, Robert Cole, that O'Malley had to pay the Zuckerberg nut, as I call it, the $1 million to Mr. Rickey, who had moved on to Pittsburgh, and he paid it off over time, and that's how he got his money. So some of the trades that the Dodgers made were sensational. One of the best trades that they made were many years before O'Malley got to town, and many years before any of us were even a twinkle in our parents' eyes, and that was on this very day in 1918. The Brooklyn Dodgers traded Casey Stengel to the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they received a pitcher in return named Burleigh Grimes, a right-handed pitcher from Pittsburgh. Burleigh Grimes went on to win in his career 270 games, 158 with the Brooklyn Dodgers. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame at Cooperstown in 1964, and it was one of the best trades the Dodgers ever made. Burleigh Grimes, in 5 of the seasons he was with the Dodgers, he was with them more than 5, but in the 5 seasons that I'm going to point out, he won 23 games, 22 games, 22 games, 21 games, and 19 games. Wow. Quite a span there for a few years. He really was one of the top pitchers in all of baseball. And Burleigh Grimes was one of the final gentlemen in Major League Baseball to use the spitball. Now, in 1920, the Major League fathers, if you will, got together and had a meeting and decided to ban the spitball from baseball. No longer was it legal to throw that wet pitch. However, they allowed 18 pitchers, Burleigh Grimes among them, they allowed 18 pitchers that used that pitch all of their careers to continue to use it until their retirement. And Burleigh Grimes was one of them. Burleigh was an excellent top-shelf pitcher who used to very mysteriously get rocked by the Philadelphia Phillies. He got bombed so many times by the Phillies that the Dodgers were convinced that Philadelphia had a camera of sorts in their center field bleachers at the Baker Bowl in Philadelphia. But it was pointed out that the Phillies continued to rack up extra base hits against Burleigh Grimes, even at Ebbets Field. So that was poo-pooed, and they couldn't figure out why Burleigh Grimes, this Hall of Fame type pitcher, top echelon, top shelf pitcher, couldn't get the Philadelphia Phillies out until the Batboy, yes, the Batboy, came to the manager and said, I know why he's tipping his pitches, because his cap is too tight. Let that sink in for a second. The Batboy, first of all, it was the Batboy who saw it. there was no such thing as a pitching coach back then, but there were coaches. The Batboy saw that Burleigh Grimes was tipping his spitball by flexing his facial muscles before he would throw that pitch, and his hat would wiggle. So the Dodgers issued him a hat one size larger, and he started to get the Phillies out just like he got everybody else out in the National League.
You like that? Wow.
I thought that was a really good.
That's very interesting.
Tidbit. And that only goes to show Ronnie Rabinovitz. That only goes to prove one more time that Peter Trunk knows 5,000 things that don't mean anything. the king of trivia. Like I always told you, I said I know things that don't really amount to a hill of beans, but to an avid Dodger fan, a crazy-ass Dodger fan like you and I, it's very entertaining and funny. I thought that was great. The Batboy caught it. His cap was too tight, and he was telegraphing the pitches. His cap used to wiggle around too much. Ronnie Rabinovitz, do you have anything you want to talk about the Brooklyn Dodgers tonight? Any comments?
Not tonight. That was an interesting story, though, Peter. With
thank you.
That was very clever. Yeah.
Thank
very
you.
Good.
And I have, like I said, I have a million of those. And as they used to say way back in the day, that and 15 cents will get you on the subway. But nowadays, I guess you'd have to say that and $4 will get you a venti at Starbucks. But, not worth too much. All right. Without any further ado, let's travel out to the West Coast and let's let our guest, Linda Wilson, regale us with some things. Before Linda starts up, and I'm very excited that she's here tonight because she always has so much to add to the show. I read a couple of things today that perhaps in the ensuing 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, Linda, you could work them into your little story that you're going to tell tonight or whatever you want to call it. The first thing I read was that in Las Vegas, the Dodgers are second only to the Boston Red Sox as the odds-on favorite to win the World Series in 2019. They have an over-under for wins, total wins, and the Dodgers' win total is projected in Las Vegas as winning 95 games this coming season. And the reason I mention those two things is not because they're so outrageous, but to me they're a little bit semi-outrageous because the Dodgers got rid of Puig and Kemp and Wood and who am I forgetting?
Farmer.
Right. And they're still they haven't gotten the ballyhooed Bryce Harper, nor are they predicted to do so, and they are still second in Las Vegas to the Boston Red Sox to win the 2019 World Series, and they're projected to win 95 games. That I do not understand, to tell you the God's honest truth, because who knows what Seager can do after his operation,
right.
And who knows how effective Kershaw is going to be, and who knows how effective Jansen is going to be after his surgery. But I just thought I'd put that out there. And Linda Wilson, it's all yours. You're out there in California. You hear the whispers a little bit louder than we do. Go ahead. It's all yours, Linda Wilson.
Well, I really try to reserve judgment until I know really what team is going to be put on the field. And we don't know. We know the Dodgers aren't finished dealing, and there was all that speculation, as you mentioned, about Harper, but I have to think that they're going to come up with some other moves, because certainly losing Yasiel Puig to me is going to be a minus if they don't do something to bolster the offense and fill in the outfield. Well, they were saying they were just getting rid of extra outfielders, but there's got to be, there's got to have some other plan besides the Harper plan. I can't imagine that, this isn't the way it's going to go. If it is, the team would definitely be weaker, as you mentioned, than it was last year. However, you're right about we don't know how Kershaw will be. We don't know how Kenley Jansen will be, but I do like the move that they made to get Joe Kelly as kind of like an insurance for Kenley. I think if he needs to be, he can step in, I think, and maybe we'll see how the trips to Colorado go, if Kenley is going to make those trips or not. I don't know, with his heart having been operated on. But I like the bullpen addition. I'll just say that much. The one
explain to our listening audience, Linda, why Jansen might not make the trips to Colorado. Please.
Okay, because of Kenley's irregular heartbeat. However, since he just recently had surgery that was supposed to correct whatever it was, that may have resolved the problem. I don't know, but because of the high altitude in Colorado, it was a problem last year. Caused him a problem on one of the trips, and then he didn't make at least one of the other trips. I can't remember about the third.
Wasn't he in the hospital there, Linda, in Denver?
I
thought so.
When he was actually in Denver, he was. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think so.
So that is an issue, because as we saw, he wasn't quite the same. The last few months of the season, he gave up a lot of home runs, and coming out of as a closer, you don't want to see your closer giving up home runs of all things. So hopefully we get back on the right track as far as the bullpen goes. And my only concern, I feel good about the pitching staff. I like the way that Walker Buehler has stepped in and kind of shown that he's almost ready to take on the world. He did great in the playoffs. He was a big piece during the regular season, and someday when Kershaw's not going to be number one, I think that's the number one guy we're going to see. I do, like I said, I do have my issues about not knowing what's going on with the outfield and in flux and all that, but I still feel good in general about the team. I don't have any doubt that they're going to come up with something to address this. And if you think back a year ago, none of us were all excited when they signed Max Muncy. We didn't know anything about him, and everybody was complaining, well, they don't have a big player, they haven't got anybody, and there he came out of nowhere and started being a big part of why they went back to the World Series. And in fact, his home run was the only Dodger win, the 18-inning Game 3 that I was at, by the way. So I think the front office has a reputation of getting a lot of these under the radar guys that nobody expects to do anything, and then they do. So I'm just trusting that the team that's finally on the field by opening day is going to be deeper than what we're seeing now.
Right. I hope so too. Do you think Harper's coming to LA?
I really don't.
I don't
either. Think in fact, I wasn't quite sold on, as much as I like him and as much as he has tremendous talent. I'm a little concerned about the issues, kind of like with Manny Machado, or you don't run out of ball, or you don't hustle, or whatever. It could be an issue. We've seen that with other players, and most recently with Machado and the Dodgers. But I want.
Do you think Machado will be back?
No, I don't think.
I don't either.
I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think that I honestly, I can't speak for the front office, but I don't think that the front office really wants him back. So.
Who's that?
Yeah, I don't think this. Yeah, Machado. I don't think.
No.
they haven't made much of, any mention of him at all. And it's like, all the rumors were that he's been wanting to play for the Yankees. But, here we are in January and nobody's really done anything about signing him. So, well, it could be just I think he may end up with Philadelphia. That's a lot of talk about that, too.
So we'll see that Harper is looking for a 10-year guaranteed contract.
Can't do that. I mean, LA can't do that.
No.
I heard
I don't know if anybody can.
Harper and Machado, one of them has to sign first.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to sign on this on the dotted line the exact same hour on the exact same date. Right?
No.
One of them has to sign first, and the second one is going to want to make more money than the first one signed for.
Yeah.
And
That's
both of them want more than Stanton. Stanton got $325 million. They want $326 million. They want to be the highest. So somebody has to sign first, and then when he signs, the next one will sign, and he wants to be the higher than that. So the first one that signs wants to be higher than Stanton. The second one wants to be higher than either Machado or Harper, whoever signs first. All right, let's go back to the Dodgers. Linda Wilson, let me ask you a question. How does this scenario sound to you? Does this sound like this is a Andrew Friedman type of situation here? Let me make my, not prediction, but let me just tell you a scenario that I can see happening. The Dodgers somehow get Corey Kluber. Don't ask me how. I don't know how. But they get Corey Kluber and they re-sign Grandal for 2 years, and that's all they do before opening day. Can you see that as legitimate? I'm not saying whether you like it or not.
No, I understand. I don't. Do you mean, do I see it as legitimate that could actually be the scenario? I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have to think they're gonna shore up the outfield in some way. The outfield will be affected in some way. They've lost two key, outfielders, and we'll have to see, I guess.
I hear that Pollock wants too much money also.
Yeah, I was looking at Pollock's numbers a couple of days ago, and I'm not really convinced that for that money he's worth it either.
Yeah, he fell off last year.
Yeah. I do have concerns about Grandal, though. We've noticed that.
Well, we all do, yeah.
We've noticed that he thinks he's, evidently he thought he was going to get something more than he has been offered, and he doesn't seem to like that. So he may end up playing where he doesn't want to play or anything just to have a job. So. Yeah,
the two things about Grandal that surprised me very much, I thought I was a knowledgeable baseball fan. Evidently, I don't know squat. I couldn't believe that he turned down the Dodgers qualifying. Not that I was for it. If Friedman had called me up, I would have said, "Are you on drugs or what?" They offered $17.9 million for one season, and he turned them down. And then 3 weeks later, he turned down the New York Mets again. Thank goodness, he turned down the New York Mets 4 years for $60 million. Where does he fit? Where the hell does he think he fits into the? What does he think? He's Roy Campanella?
Really?
Give me a break.
Yeah. I know. I don't know what was.
He's the only baseball player in history that was screamed at by Mary Hart.
Are you sure of that?
Yeah, Mary Hart sits there with her Dodger sweater on next to her 104-year-old husband, and they sit there every game, and they leave after the sixth inning, or at least they go to the bar or wherever. They're out of their seats in the sixth inning. I saw her get up out of her seat, raise her right arm, and scream at Grandal after his 14th pass ball of the series or whatever. She was livid. I don't see how they could ever do that, but I did read that in. I'm sure you belong to all of the different Dodger blogs, et cetera, et cetera. I belong to a few myself, and one of them is called Dodgers Nation. And Dodgers Nation, or Dodger Nation without the S, I believe, Dodger Nation has this scenario where they get Kluber, the Dodgers do, and they re-sign Grandal for 2 years. And the guy said...
How about Realmuto?
Who?
The guy from
Realmuto.
Realmuto?
Yeah. For him.
Yeah.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Realmuto
from Miami.
From Miami. The catcher.
Realmuto. Yeah.
Realmuto. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Realmuto.
Well,
they want Gehrig, Ruth, and Lazzari for him.
Right.
They do.
Yeah.
They want everybody.
They do. Yeah.
They want Koufax, Drysdale, and Duke Snyder for him.
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen. And you know something? No. It's funny how I was so high on JT Realmuto a month or two ago, and the more I read about him, the more I read that not only does he have a lot of pass balls, and he doesn't block the pitches very well, but he falls off every season after the All-Star game. Does that sound familiar to you? Yeah. Grandal was all world before the All-Star game. He was on a pace for almost 100 RBIs. And then after the All-Star game, he didn't hit his weight. He didn't hit close to his weight. He hit less than the pitcher, Ryu. His batting average was lower than Ryu and maybe even Kershaw. He hit 118 or something like that the last 5-6 weeks of the season. Bernie Rose had a stat. I think if I remember correctly, and I wish Bernie were here to back me up on this, the last so-and-so weeks, I don't know, a lot of weeks. It wasn't the last week. Believe me, it wasn't the last 2 weeks, and it wasn't the last 3 weeks. It was the last 11 weeks or something. He hit 107.
Huh.
Grandal with runners on base, 107.
Wow.
Okay, that's not even average for a pitcher. No. Okay.
You think they'll bring Dozier back?
I hope not. And the reason I say that, I tell you why I say it. Dozier is one of those guys, and there's a few guys, not on the Dodgers, but scattered, salt and peppered throughout the game of Major League Baseball, guys who are hanging on that are hurt. They're playing hurt. Dozier's playing hurt. There's something radically wrong with one of his knees. And it's sort of like a Dustin Pedroia situation. It's never going to be remedied to any degree. He's always going to be playing hurt. And, here's a guy, Dozier averaged 32 home runs a season for 4 years straight.
Right.
32 home runs he averaged. When he came to the Dodgers, he hit, what would he hit, 7, 8? And I read the reason. Roberts backed him up when the season was over. He could hardly walk. The guy couldn't even walk. One of
he
his
have
knees
surgery this winter?
So yeah, but something. It's not that type of injury, Ronnie. It's not the type of injury where surgery is going to help it much. Just like Dustin Pedroia. Dustin Pedroia had 2 surgeries on the same knee. It's not going to help him. His knee is gone. It's shot. And Dozier's knee is gone. He's not going to be able to pivot at second. He's not going to be able to hit for power. I don't want him. And I also don't want DJ LeMahieu, because if you look at his splits, the second baseman for the Rockies, he was decent, not great, decent at Mile High Stadium in Denver. He was horrible on the road. He's another Logan Forsythe, DJ LeMahieu is. So forget him. Don't even look at him.
Who's going to play second base?
I don't know. You? I don't know. I'll tell you what.
Well, that's another good question.
They're going to make a big mistake, in my opinion, if they try to shoehorn in a guy like Muncy at second base. It's going to come back to haunt them. Because no matter how many home runs the guy hits, he's going to miss in double plays and not being able to play second base well at all. It's just not going to work out. It's not going to work out. Muncy is not a second baseman by any stretch of the imagination. He can fill in there once a month, twice a month, but he's no second baseman. So I have no idea. And this brings me back, Ronnie Rabinowitz, this brings me back to why I was so incredulous about Las Vegas having the Dodgers at 95 wins and second to the Red Sox to win the World Series. How can that possibly be? Yeah. They have no one to play second base. They're short an outfielder. They don't have the bridge to Kenley Jansen. They don't know if Jansen is going to be effective. They don't know if the kid Seager's arm is going to be able to play shortstop 160 times. Turner is due to start falling off that cliff.
Oh. Right.
He's due. Well, I mean, as great as he's been, you don't really think Justin Turner is going to go 30, 100, 300 this coming year, do you? No way. Absolutely no way.
I got to
280, 280 maybe. I love Justin Turner. It's just time for him to start pooping out a little bit. So I don't know where, and again with Koufax, Freudian slip, Kershaw throwing 89 miles an hour. Things could get really rough at Chavez Ravine this summer. They could get really rough. And I mean rough. You see what happened to the Giants after they won the World Championship?
Yeah.
Up in San Francisco? They fell off the table real fast. That could happen in L.A.
Well, they did win 3 before that happened.
Linda,
yeah, well, I'll take 3 championships and then let them fall off the table.
Yeah. Well, now I do have to. I did have to make a comment though when you were running down that all the shortcomings of the team, and you said there's no bridge to Kenley. I'm still going to disagree with that because I think Joe Kelly is going to fill in nicely there.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I'm not worried about the bridge to Kenley. I'm more worried about catching situation, second base, and another outfielder. So I'm not sure what they have up their sleeve or what they have in mind, but I'm really not going to worry about it too much because I figure they're going to address it somehow. Hopefully,
if they're going to go with Kiki Hernandez or Chris Taylor at second base, they're in for a long, hot summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
The team is not as good as last year. It goes on the field like this.
I mean,
in my opinion.
Let's just talk about CT3 for a second. Chris Taylor, he gets called out on strikes with men at third or men at second and third and nobody out. He doesn't even go down swinging. He gets called out on strikes. Yeah. And when the count, and Bernie Rose and I go crazy during the summer, during the regular games, when Chris Taylor will come up with men at second and third or the bases loaded, nobody out, and the count will go to 2-0, and he takes the next pitch, a fastball, right down Broadway. He takes it for strike one. I mean, where did he learn? How do you get to the major leagues without knowing that's your pitch? You got to be ready. That's your pitch. That's a hitter's pitch, 2-0. and here comes the fastball right down Broadway, and Chris Taylor lets it go by every time. Every time. Amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Let me ask you something. Do you think a new, with a little bit of changeover in the coaching staff, do you think a new hitting coach is going to change anything, or can we just hope for the best, or what do you think?
I don't think a new hitting coach is going to change anything, meaning with Chris Taylor per se. And in general, not too much. I think hitting coaches are overrated to a large degree. I think that if you are a world-class athlete and you have worked your way into the major leagues and you are a starting major leaguer on a team such as the Dodgers, who win their division every year, you should know that when the count is 2-0, you're ready to rip and not just stand there and watch the fastball go down Broadway and take it for strike one. You should know that without a hitting coach. And it amazes me that he seems to not know that whatsoever. Robert Cole, back me up on this. Come on, you played ball. You coached baseball. What's the deal with this?
Okay, well, it's in his head. It's a mental thing, and what a hitting coach can do, more so than change mechanics, is try to change the mental aspect, and that's really what they do the best. I mean, they can make little mechanical adjustments, but they need to get inside the guy's head, get his confidence going again, and get him going in that direction. So perhaps a new hitting coach might help him if he can connect, and it's all a matter of connecting, and you don't know. I mean, some guys are never going to change. Never.
Right.
And then there's other guys that, are open and conducive to everything, and, you have to see. One thing I want to ask you, Linda, is I have a lot of New York Yankee friends and stuff in New York, and a lot of them are saying that the Yankees have been trying to work out a deal with the Dodgers to trade Stanton to the Dodgers, which would open up money for them to then go sign Harper. Have you heard anything like that at all?
I actually haven't heard that. That's the first I've heard about that. That's interesting.
I've heard it. I've heard that.
Yeah, because Stanton is an L.A. guy. He's a laid-back kind of guy. Would probably
last off season, they were, if you remember, the speculation was really big that he was going to end up in L.A.
Well, he wanted to go. That's where he wanted to go, but for some reason they couldn't work out, the players to be involved in it. But that's really where he wants to be. And I was just wondering if you heard anything on that end, because my people in New York have been saying that that's something that the Yankees have been working very hard to do, that if they could do that, they'd be in position to sign Harper. And Harper has been very vehement about always wanting to be a Yankee. So that would work out on both ends there.
Yes, that's true. I'm glad you brought that up. I actually haven't heard about that, but I'll keep my ears open on it a little bit more.
Yeah, because that would certainly help the Dodgers. I don't know what exactly the Dodgers would offer to the Yankees in return, but it would help the Dodgers. It'd also free up money for the Yankees. So.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The Dodgers probably wouldn't have to give too much up because the Yankees would clear money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they would probably want a couple of young pieces to come back. I'm not all that familiar with the Dodger farm system, but if they had a couple of young pieces to go back the other way, and it would open up the spot for Harper, which is what they want. Now, don't forget, in your bullpen, you guys just picked up Jamie Schultz in a trade from the Rays. I'm reading that you also just signed Shane Peterson, the outfielder. So, why are you guys complaining? There's the depth right there.
There you are.
See, we have to put up with this when we have Robert Cole on our panel, because Robert Cole is master of irony and sarcasm, which is good. We need that. We need a spot of that every now and then. You're absolutely right, Robert. The thing with me personally, just being a baseball fan and watching and reading and being interested in it all of these years and still being just as interested as I've always been, I have not lost one iota of interest, and I gobble up all the information I can gobble up. And I personally, I root for the Dodgers to win, and I think that Bryce Harper and or Giancarlo Stanton would not, in the long run, be good for the Dodgers. We already touched on why Harper might not be. Doesn't run out the balls, criticizes his teammates in the press. Stanton, on the other hand, here's a guy, he's going to strike out 200 times. We already have guys. we have a whole shitload of guys that strike out, especially when there's men on base. We don't need another guy to strike out 200 more times for us.
But
we need somebody who's
going to hit 40 home runs, though.
Well, yeah, he's going to hit 40 home runs, but is he going to hit them with two men on base? Is he going to hit them when it's 3-2, when it's 3-3, or is he going to hit them when it's 6-1? And he's going to hit one like 566 feet, and they're going to get the tape measure out, and it's going to make the sporting news. It's going to make ESPN and MLB TV. And meanwhile, the Dodgers are like 14-14 in fourth place or something. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I think one of the most important things that the Dodgers need to get, and I've said this, if you go back, and I know you're not going to, so I'm pretty well safe that you don't. If you go back and check earlier shows, I've said over and over and over, the most important guy for the Dodgers to get this offseason is Corey Kluber, and I stick with that. I think that with Kluber and Buehler, they're going to, in a short series, I'm talking postseason, with a guy like Kluber and the kid Buehler, and the rest of the guys are not too shabby either, Kershaw et al. They'll be very, very hard to beat in a short series. I think no matter what they do, they're going to win the division. I don't see them not winning the division, or minimum, if something goes terribly wrong, at least a wild card. They're going to be in the postseason. I really think they are. I would be stunned if they weren't. But being in the postseason, if you take the Dodgers pitching staff as it stands right now, today, and add Corey Kluber to that staff, that's a hard team to beat in a short series.
Yes, it is.
Very, very hard team to beat. So you can keep Machado and you can keep Harper and those guys. I really want Kluber. I really do. Kluber can be what Jacob deGrom could have been for the Yankees if they had gone through with that rumored trade of a couple of months ago. If the Mets had somehow traded Jacob deGrom to the Yankees, you could forget about it. The Yankees would. It's just, baseball sages say you never want to trade an everyday star for a pitcher. Well, in this case, the Dodgers, I think Corey Kluber is the missing piece. That's my opinion. I really do. I think it would make them almost unbeatable. It would have to be like a freak of nature for them to lose. And we've seen freaks of nature in the last two World Series, not last World Series, but the World Series before, when the Dodgers were up by like 86 runs and they lost by a run. with Kershaw on the mound, and
right.
you know, things happen in baseball. We know that. We know that. But I'll tell you what, I would feel very comfortable putting my money down on the Dodgers if Corey Kluber was part of their rotation. I really would.
Yeah, I have one other question.
Ronnie, go ahead.
Any three of you as high on Verdugo as the Dodgers seem to be?
I'll let Linda go first.
Not particularly. I've seen. I've gone back and forth on that. At this point, I'm not as high on it, but I could be wrong.
I'm not either. Yeah.
What do you think, Robert? Did you see enough of Verdugo to make a decision on that?
Once again, you just don't know. And if you have a chance to get somebody of value, in other words, it would probably cost the Dodgers Verdugo and to get Kluber. Okay, Cleveland's asking a big, big price. Now, would you trade Verdugo because he's a jewel, but he's not an unpolished jewel, and you don't know how that's going to work out. Now, would you trade Verdugo and a couple of other prospects in order to get Kluber?
See, I would, and I'll tell you why. That's why I'm not a general manager of the Dodgers, or anybody for that matter. I would, and I'll tell you why. I think Verdugo hasn't proven anything yet. No. Kluber has not only proven himself, he's proven himself to be a Cy Young level pitcher in the major leagues, in the American League with the DH. Yeah. So Kluber has proven it. Verdugo hasn't proven it. So if I'm the general manager and I trade Verdugo for Kluber, and Kluber comes over and goes 14-13, and Verdugo goes to Cleveland and hits 38 home runs and hits 302 with 30 stolen bases, people are going to come back to me and say, "Hey, what happened?" And I would tell them exactly what verbatim. I would tell them what I just said. I would have said, "I'll make that trade 10 times out of 10. A kid that looks like he could be a star but hasn't proven a thing yet." Against a Cy Young Award winner, a proven all-star pitcher, I'll make that trade, and I'll make it again tomorrow.
Look what happened, with Jock Peterson. Okay, the Dodgers had opportunities to trade Jock Peterson in various trades to get back some good ball players. They refused to do that. How does that look now?
Well, I'll tell you what. Jock Peterson is no slouch. He's a good ball player in every way, shape, and form. But your point is well taken. Your point is well taken because I think Verdugo's ceiling, I could be wrong, Verdugo's ceiling is another Jock Peterson. So I would trade him for Kluber. No doubt. No hesitation whatsoever.
So, I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. If, in fact, they actually want to get Kluber, it's going to cost Verdugo. It's going to cost a couple of other, good pieces.
That's right.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
It's going to cost.
Right.
It's going to cost one of their young catchers down in the minors, either Smith or Ruiz, and it might even cost the first baseman, second baseman, left fielder, right fielder, the young kid Rios. Might cost them Rios and Rios, but you know what? I still make the trade. I make the trade. I send Verdugo, Rios, and Ruiz, and I send them and I get Kluber. And I tell people down the road, and when I write my book after I'm fired, I would make that trade again because no one is all seeing and all knowing. You don't know. And Kluber, you know. You don't have to guess with Kluber. Is he going to be good? Yeah. You know Kluber's going to be good. Kluber is excellent.
Okay, so let's say you make that trade. Okay, you bring Kluber, and you don't do anything else. You're not able to do anything else. Okay, you have a hole at second base. You have a power hole in the outfield for sure. You still think Kluber could overcome that?
yes, I think the Dodgers win the division. The postseason before the World Series is a crapshoot. You could have the 27 Yankees get drilled out of that at any time. The postseason is crazy in baseball. Anybody can win, anybody can lose. But yes, the Dodgers with Kluber sail home with their 7th consecutive division title. They keep their fingers crossed and they bite their fingernails through the postseason until the World Series. And then when the World Series opens up, I think they have a really, really, really good shot with Kluber in the rotation in a best-of-7 series.
What about you, Linda? What do you think? That same exact scenario?
No, I absolutely agree.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I agree, too.
Okay, get on the phone, make the trade, Peter.
Yeah,
well,
get on the phone, Peter.
Andrew Friedman's number. I have it around here somewhere. I forget where I put it. Listen, I want to thank everybody for tonight. I think you all did a great job. Linda Wilson, don't be such a stranger. I know it's difficult for you to work the time angle with the Pacific time as opposed to Eastern time. But when and if you ever can make that adjustment, I always tell you this. You never really take me up on it, but I'm telling you again on the air, you don't need an invitation. All you have to do is let me know via message you're available on Wednesday so-and-so date. And when you tell me you're available, and the same thing goes for Bernie Rose, I told him the same thing. If you're available and you're in the mood, you tell me and I will make room for you, no problem. But for me to come after you all the time and you're, well, I can't do that because I got this, I got a meeting, I got a birthday party, I got a christening, I got a marriage, I got to go fishing with my friend, whatever. They're breaking out a new beer that weekend, I can't do it.
Yeah,
that's whatever.
My reason.
Yeah, a new IPA, whatever. You're going to have to tell me. I will, in fact, extend invitations as I always do, but you have to tell me. You know what, Peter? I'm available 2 weeks from Wednesday, and would like to come on the show. Boom, you're on. Exactly right, Ronnie. Boom,
well,
automatic.
I'll be letting you know in the next couple of weeks then, because I've still got things like left unsaid tonight. So
you know what? Not only that, not only do I wish you would do that, and get those things that you left unsaid tonight to be said, but as the next Wednesday and the next Wednesday and the next Wednesday come and go, maybe the Dodgers will make some sort of heavy move, and we will need you. Not want you, but we will need you to come on and explain it to us.
Oh. I'll have to break it down. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Okay?
All right. Good.
All right. So
great.
let me thank our guest, Linda Wilson from San Diego, California, Dodger fan extraordinaire. Let me thank my partners, Ronnie Rabinovitz and Robert Cole. Ronnie of Minnesota and Mr. Cole from down in the warm regions of Florida. And my name is Peter Trunk, and thank you for listening. This has been A Tale of Two Cities from Brooklyn to Los Angeles, Dodger Baseball. Thanks again, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.